What's good? I go by the name Osiris, but you can call me Middle MAGA if you want. I want something to help you remember who I am and which website to go to. Today, I'm going to read every word of the Twitter Files Release 14. Let's get it. Matt Taibbi starts off the thread. Number 1, thread. Twitter Files number 14. The RussiaGate lies. 1. The fake tale of Russian bots and the hashtag release the memo. Number 2. At a crucial moment in a years-long fervor, Democrats denounced a report about flaws in the Trump-Russia investigation, saying it was boosted by Russian bots and trolls. Number 3. Twitter officials were aghast, finding no evidence of Russian influence. We are feeding congressional trolls, not any significant activity connected to Russia, putting the cart before the horse, assuming this is propaganda bots. This is a letter dated, I'm going to read a letter dated January 26, 2018. The Honorable Dianne Feinstein, the Honorable Adam Schiff, United States Congress, Washington, D.C. Dear Senator Feinstein and Representative Schiff, thank you for your letter regarding trending hashtags and concerns over Russian disinformation efforts. Mr. Dorsey has asked me to respond to the issues you have raised. Twitter is deeply committed to protecting the integrity of the democratic process, and we value Congress's interest in understanding the role of social media in Russian disinformation efforts. As we have indicated previously, Twitter has conducted an extensive inquiry into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. We also continue to strengthen our fight against malicious automation and coordinated efforts to manipulate the Twitter platform. As we have also indicated previously to Congress, our work addressing such activity has yielded significant progress over the last few years. For example, as a key component of this work, Twitter has established a dedicated information quality team, which focuses on enhancing the strategies we use to detect and stop bad automation, improve machine learning to spot spam, and increase the precision of our tools designed to prevent such content from contaminating our platform. With respect to our analysis of particular hashtags, we welcome the opportunity to share with the committee some initial findings on this issue. We performed a preliminary analysis of available geographical data for tweets with the hashtag release the memo. Our initial inquiry based on available data has not identified any significant activity connected to Russia with respect to tweets posting original content to this hashtag. That's the letter from Twitter to the Honorable
Dianne Feinstein
and the Honorable Adam Schiff. As a part of these Twitter file releases, we have a communication that says, I think Lauren is right too. He is putting the cart before the horse and assuming this is propaganda bots. You could tell him that our very preliminary assessment is that much, if not most of this, is organic activity, and ask him to please let us understand the facts before jumping ahead to addressing how to remedy it. We are feeding congressional trolls. That is via internal communications at Twitter. Number 4, going back to Matt Taibbi. Twitter warned politicians and media that not only lacked evidence, these claims, but had evidence the accounts weren't Russian and were roundly ignored. Number 5. On January 18th, 2018, Republican Devin Nunes submitted a classified memo to the House Intelligence Committee detailing abuses by the FBI in obtaining FISA surveillance authority against Trump. FISA stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. Republican Devin Nunes submitted a classified memo to the House committee detailing these abuses in the FBI obtaining FISA surveillance authority against Trump-connected figures, including the crucial role played by the infamous Steele dossier. Unclassified materials here show that members were provided an update on significant facts relating to the committee's ongoing investigation into the DOJ and FBI and their use of FISA during the 2016 presidential election cycle. The findings, which are detailed below, raise concerns with the legitimacy and legality of certain DOJ and FBI interactions with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, and two, represent a troubling breakdown of legal processes established to protect the American people from abuses related to the FISA process. On October, this is the letter from Nunes, on October 21, 2016, DOJ and FBI sought and received a FISA probable cause order, not under Title VII, authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISA court. Page is a U.S. citizen who served as a volunteer advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application had to be first certified by the director or deputy director of the FBI. It then required the approval of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, or the Senate-confirmed Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division. The FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISA court. As required by statute, a FISA order on an American citizen must be renewed by the court every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. Then Director James Comey signed 3 FISA applications on behalf of the FBI, and Deputy Director Angie McCabe signed one. Then the Deputy AG, Sally Yates, then Acting Deputy Attorney General Dana Boente, and Rod Rosenstein each signed one or more FISA applications on behalf of DOJ. Due to the sensitive nature of foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions, including renewals, before the FISA court are classified. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of the FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to the surveillance of American citizens. However, the court's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, which is reinforced by 90-day renewals of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production to the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA. So what we're seeing is an accusation of Russian influence, allowing them to use the FISA Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. If those accusations are false, then everything after that is false. And we seem to have proof that in the Twitter files, at least Twitter knew for their platform that wasn't true. Continuing on to Matt Taibbi. We are just getting started in the Twitter files. Buckle up. We've got quite a few more to go. Number 6, the Nunes assertions would virtually be all verified in a report by Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz in December of 2019. Reading just the highlighted portions, we also found that the FBI's interviews of Steele, his primary subsource, a second subsource, and other investigative activity revealed potentially serious problems with Steele's descriptions of information in his reports. Among other things, regarding the allegations attributed to Person 1, the primary subsource's account of these communications, if true, was not consistent with and, in fact, contradicted the allegations of a well-developed conspiracy in reports 95 and 102 attributed to Person 1. As noted above, the FBI filed 3 renewal applications with the FISA court on January 12th, April 7th, and June 29th, 2017. In addition to repeating the 7 significant errors contained in the first FISA application, we identified 10 additional significant errors in the 3 renewal applications. So you see, this backs up what Nunes had just said. Based on information known to the FBI after the first application and before one or more of the renewals. Continuing on, Another highlighted portion of this executive summary in 2019, as more fully described in Chapter 5, based upon the information known to the FBI in October 2016, the first application contained the following 7 significant inaccuracies and omission. And I'm not going to go through all those details there, but that is backing up Nunes. Another highlighted portion, we determined that the Crossfire Hurricane team's receipt of Steele's election reporting on September 19th, 2016 played a central and essential role in the FBI's and department's decision to seek the FISA order. And we now know it's all based on debunked, false, not credible, bad information. Continuing on with the Twitter files, we're on to number 7 now. Knowing all of that, nonetheless, national media in January and early February of 2018 denounced the Nunes report in oddly identical language, calling it a joke. And MSNBC, Washington Post, Trump may use memo to fire Rosenstein. Andrea Mitchell, Nunes has turned House Intelligence Committee into a joke. This was January 29, 2018, and the report I just read you in 2019 showed that Nunes was more right, definitely confirmed to be more right than the media was. Opinion, Washington Post, the Nunes memo is out. It's a joke and a sham. The Nunes memo is no smoking gun. The ex-RNC chairman rips Nunes memo for the joke it is. The Onion is mad you're stealing their material. And we're talking about stuff that's of the utmost serious nature in our country. Number 9 for Matt Taibbi. On January 23rd, 2018, Senator Dianne
Feinstein
and Congressman Adam Schiff published an open letter saying the hashtag gained the immediate attention and assistance of social media accounts linked to Russian influence operations. They're claiming that the origin of this hashtag is Russian, and not just Russian bots and disinformation. Dianne Feinstein says that. Her office released that report, and those are the receipts right there. Number 9B, Feinstein, Schiff, said the Nunes memo distorts classified information. But note, they didn't call it incorrect. They're very careful with their words. Dianne Feinstein and Schiff are very careful with their words. They said specifically on Thursday, January 18, 2018, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence majority voted to allow members of the U.S. House of Representatives to review a misleading talking points memo authored by Republican staff that selectively references and distorts highly classified information. The rushed decision to make this document available to the full House of Representatives was followed quickly by calls from some quarters to release the document to the public. They did not call the information incorrect, even though the media had smeared Nunes as a sham, even comparing him to the satirical outlet The Onion. Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal followed suit, publishing a letter saying, "We find it reprehensible that Russian agents have so eagerly manipulated innocent citizens." I'm going to read just a highlighted portion of his letter, and that's what it says there. So actually, I'm not going to read that highlighted portion, but he has a letter. Those are the receipts. Number 11, Dianne Feinstein. Here, she's all over this, and she's now 89, still in the Senate. Dianne Feinstein, Schiff, Blumenthal, and media members all pointed to the same source, the Hamilton 68 dashboard created by former FBI counterintelligence official by this name. There's some names that I just want to avoid saying. Under the auspices of the Alliance for Securing Democracy. So they based these claims under the Hamilton 68 dashboard. And here are the receipts. Hashtag release the memo is now the top trending hashtag among Russian bots and trolls on Twitter and other platforms, according to the German Marshals Fund's Hamilton 68 website, which tracks Russian influence campaigns. I've never seen any single hashtag that has had this amount of activity behind it. said Brett Schaefer, an analyst who helps run the Hamilton 68 dashboard, a project with the Alliance for Securing Democracy at the German Marshall Fund. It tracks about 600 accounts that it says are tied to Russian-sponsored influence and disinformation campaigns. Most of these accounts were promoting the same meme Friday. Again, they're saying this meme, "Release the Memo," is a Russian bot campaign. Release the Memo is the top trending hashtag among Twitter accounts linked to the Russian influence operations, according to Hamilton 68. All these articles are referencing Hamilton 68 and saying it's a website launched last year that says it tracks Russian propaganda in near real time. So if they are tracking it, then Twitter would actually be able to back that information up. We'll see as Matt Taibbi tells the story here as we finish the Twitter files. Though Hamilton 68 launched last summer, Morgan said he felt comfortable making that claim based on additional research and analysis. The deep state has been a constant topic on the dashboard for months, but nothing like the past few weeks as the hashtag "Release the Memo" peaked. It went from 5% of content back in September to where it's consistently around 15%, Schaefer said. So that allowed Hamilton 68 allowed the media to go with, it is Russian bots on Twitter, they said, and other platforms. But Matt Taibbi has, at least indirectly through third-party searching, the Twitter file. The dashboard, which featured a crude picture, this is the Hamilton 68 dashboard, featured a crude picture of Vladimir Putin deviously blowing evil red Twitter birds into the atmosphere, was vague in how it reached its conclusions. Remember, this is the source for all the backing of that. Inside Twitter, executives panned Watts, Hamilton 68, and the Alliance for Securing Democracy. Two key complaints. Hamilton 68 seemed to be everyone's only source, and no one was checking with, Twitter. Number 14, I encourage you to be skeptical of Hamilton 68's take on this, which, as far as I can tell, is the only source for these stories, said Global Policy Communications Chief and future White House and NSC spokesperson Emily Horn. So Emily Horn was the Global Policy Communications Chief for Twitter at the time, then became later on the National Safety Council's spokesperson. And she said, we should be skeptical of Hamilton 68 at the time. She added, it's a comms play for the ASD. Remember, the ASD is this Alliance for Securing Democracy. Receipts are here. It's a comms play. If you're just listening, I'm showing the pictures of the receipts. I encourage you to be skeptical of Hamilton 68's take on this, which, as best I can tell, is the only source for these stories. Number one, this is via who is the spokesperson now for the National Safety Council. And the Hamilton 68 does not release the accounts that make up their dashboard. So no one can verify the accounts they include are in fact Russian automated accounts. Number two, it is extraordinarily difficult for outside researchers who do not have access to our full API and internal account signals to say with any degree of certainty that an account they believe is behaving suspiciously. And you see where she's going with that. She's like, well, what is that? Wait, how are you able to say that? You don't have access to our application programming interface. So how can you say that they're one, automated, two, Russian? If you speak with them, I encourage you to press them on how they can be so sure of both these claims when they do not have access to internal signals and data. So at the time, she had an interest to say, she knows what's happening, in my opinion. They are pushing this narrative, and they are bringing her in on it indirectly, saying it's happening on Twitter. She's being twisted in the wind, having to basically say, I don't see where you're getting this. Matt Taibbi, number 15. All the swirl is based on Hamilton, said Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Given all the swirl around Release the Memo is based on Hamilton, which is based on the raw tweet count, we'd be able to broadly refute it without actually sharing anything too sensitive. I'd suggest something along the lines of, we've built many protections. We saw approximately X users. We continue to invest in IQ, including TweetDeck change to limit tweeting from multiple accounts. They're saying, how do we address this? Well, we'll address it. We don't see any evidence, but here's how we're addressing it. Number 16. If this Alliance for Securing Democracy isn't going to fact check with us, we should feel free to correct the record on their work, said Policy VP Carlos Monge. And there's the receipts. Carlos said, maybe we should correct them and say, if they're not going to fact check with us, something's going on, is what it sounded like. Number 17 from Matt Taibbi. Roth couldn't find any Russian connection to release the memo at all. I just reviewed the accounts that posted the first 50 tweets. So they're going back to the original 50 tweets here. Who started the hashtag? They can go, here's the hashtag. Who's the first person to ever tweet this hashtag? And none of them, according to Yoel Roth, show any signs of affiliation to Russia. There's the receipts. Number 18 from Matt Taibbi. We investigated, found that engagement as overwhelmingly organic and driven by VITs, which stands for very important tweeters, including WikiLeaks and Congressman Steve King. So that would mean it's organic. It went viral because people were interested in it organically, according to Yoel Roth at the time. Number 19, a staffer for DiFi, they had a nickname. They communicated with her so much, they had a nickname for Dianne Feinstein, agreed it would be helpful to know how Hamilton 68 goes by the process by which they decide an account is Russian. But only after Feinstein published her letter about Russian influence. So one of her own staffers agreed it would be helpful to know what's the process here. One of Dianne Feinstein's own staffers said it would be helpful to know how Hamilton 68 goes by the process in which they decide this. But only after Feinstein published her letter about it. She had already published the letter. Number 20, when Twitter spoke to a Blumenthal, we're back to Richard Blumenthal, senator. When they spoke to a Blumenthal staffer, they tried to wave him off because we don't believe these are bots. So Twitter tried to tell them, we don't believe these are bots. Help us understand where you're getting this. They were open-minded, but they're like, we can't confirm that. Number 21, added another, it might be worth nudging Blumenthal staffer, hey, that it could be in his boss's best interest not to go out there because it could come back to make him look silly. And that to me is Twitter trying to cover themselves. Number 22, one Twitter exec even tried to negotiate, implying an undisclosed future PR concession if Blumenthal would lay off on this. It seems like there are other wins we could offer him. A Twitter exec was saying, there's nothing here on the Russian bots, but we could offer you something else. Like we want to be down with you. 23 is one sentence, and Matt Taibbi's using, they're getting better at this, using the thread to release these files, a one paragraph, one tweet. Blumenthal published his letter anyway, to let that sink in. Number 24, execs eventually grew frustrated over what they saw as a circular process presented with claims of Russian activity, even when denied, led to more claims. Number 25, they expressed this explicitly to Blumenthal's camp, saying Twitter spent a lot of resources on this request, and the reward from Blumenthal shouldn't be round after round of requests. Wait until you hear what they compared it to. I'm a proud father of 2 kids, and I know this book pretty well that you're going to hear in a second. We can't do a user notice each time this happens. That's the internal stuff. Eventually, Twitter staff realized Blumenthal isn't looking for real and nuanced solutions, but just wants to get credit for pushing us further. What does that feel like? Number 27, ultimately, senior executive talked about feeding congressional trolls and compared their situation to the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie.
What will happen if you give a mouse a cookie?
This is a book I've read maybe 100 times, my wife and I. I should have the book memorized. They compared it to that. In the story, this is number 28 from Matt Taibbi. In the story, if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk, which leads to a wave of other exhausting requests and actions and things, at the end of which he'll want a glass of milk and one more cookie. The metaphor for the endless Russia requests, I always confuse the difference between metaphor and analogy. But yeah, the metaphor I think metaphor uses like. The metaphor for the endless Russia request was so perfect, one exec wrote, I'm legit embarrassed I didn't think of that first. The comparison of what Blumenthal was doing to if you give a mouse a cookie, despite universal internal conviction that there were no Russians in the story. Twitter went on to follow the lavish pattern of not challenging Russia claims on the record. Number 31, outside counsel from DC-connected firms, de Beauvois and Plimpton advised Twitter to use language like, with respect to particular hashtags, we take seriously any activity that may represent an abuse of our platform. So what that means is the lawyers were saying, hey, let's be vague. So they were advising Twitter. They didn't say that particularly, but what the phrase they advised Twitter to use was very vague, that did not denounce the Russian accusations and did not confirm them. It's just a funny way of saying they're not true. Number 32, as a result, reporting from the AP to Politico to NBC to Rolling Stone continue to hammer the Russian bots theme, despite a total lack of evidence. It's based on a house of cards that doesn't exist. Headline, Russian Twitter accounts push release the memo, conservative meme researchers say. That's not an op-ed. That's from the Associated Press. Release the memo is now the top trending hashtag among Russian bots. Nail in the coffin for Nunez memo. The Democratic response to the GOP memo on FBI surveillance adds new details to the case against Nunez and the Russian investigation. These are the headlines that we know are disingenuous or flat out lies, allegedly. Release the memo. What's the conspiracy behind the right-wing meme? Republicans claim a secret document reveals a Hillary Clinton plot worse than Watergate, and they're getting a big boost from Russian bots. That was January 19th, 2018. Twitter files number, this is Twitter files number 14, but in the thread number 33, Russians weren't just blamed for release the memo, but Schumer shutdown, Parkland shooting, and gun control now to widen the divide, according to the New York Times. So they even expanded the accusations of the Russian bots. Schumer shutdown and release the memo. The internal guidance was both hashtags appear to be organically trending. That's what Twitter said. Number 35, NBC, Politico, AP, Times, Business Insider, and other media outlets who played up the Russian bots story, even Rolling Stone, all declined to comment for this story. Number 36, the staffs of Feinstein, Schiff, and Blumenthal also declined to comment. Number 37, who did comment? Devin Nunes. Schiff and the Democrats falsely claimed Russians were behind the release of the memo hashtag. All my investigative work by spreading the Russia collusion hoax, they instigated one of the greatest outbreaks of mass delusion in U.S. history. Number 38, this release the memo hashtag episode is just one of many in the Twitter files. The RussiaGate scandal was built on the craven dishonesty of politicians and reporters who for years ignored the absence of data to fictional scare headlines. Number 39, for more, watch Sellenberger, Barry Weiss, L.H. Fang, David Zweig, Alex Bernstein, and more. Read TaibbiSubstack.com for more on why America needs truth and reconciliation on RussiaGate. Number 40, as they say with every Twitter files release, Twitter had no editorial input on this story. Searches were carried out by third parties, so the documents could be limited. That will complete Twitter files number 14. What we saw with Twitter files number 14 is what you could describe, or Nancy Pelosi did describe, as the wrap-up smear.
Tactic, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic. And it's self-editing.
It's a tactic used by con artists. And my final conclusion is, let me know what you think. Hopefully you found value. This is my first time trying to do a full readout of the Twitter files. Maybe I'll go back and do them all just for my own reference if nobody else finds value. But it makes me wonder if this is how they treated this. And now that we know it's a lie and how nobody's covering it, nobody's apologizing. Some random dude in their basement, they make a mistake in a video, they get on their knees and bow and pray and apologize for the mistake. We're not seeing that. It makes you wonder what else is out there and why would they do that. Take care.